Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another Indie Comics Talk. I've got two great creators with me tonight to talk about their ongoing Kickstarter, Tyrant Fall. We've got issue 2 funding on Kickstarter right now. Got the writer Brennan Knight and artist Max Davenport. Max also done some awesome covers for IDW's Dungeons and Dragons series. Let's welcome them in here, Brennan and Max. Thank you for coming in tonight and talking.
Hey, no problem.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. I'm excited to talk about Tyrant Fall. I love issue number 1. Just fantastic fantasy. Fantasy is my favorite genre. It's like my go-to feel-good genre. So when I first met Brennan back at Baltimore Comic-Con 2021, and I got something coming up, and they hit me up with talking about it. I was like, yes, this is awesome. Hey, Steven, welcome in. So let's, I know, Brennan, you got to do a little bit of how you got into comics and wanting to create comics, but this is Max's first time on here. So let's have Max do a little bit of that for us, and then we'll talk about Tyrant Fall. So how did you get into comics as a reader or collector, and then what made you want to draw comics?
So the thing that got me in was, as a true child of the 90s, was the X-Men animated series. It kind of blew my mind as a young lad, and I was like, I gotta find where this stuff is coming from, and kind of back-ended into it that way. I didn't have a lot of comic shops growing up around me. So for a long time, it was kind of like a love from afar. And then actually, it was like, like racks and drugstores and grocery stores and things. I was like picking up the odd thing here and there. And then actually, like in college, when I was going to school for it, I was able to fully re-immerse myself. I picked up single issues of a lot of stuff here and there, but I wouldn't say I was a member of a fandom. I just kind of really appreciated the art form. And then once I started going to school, and I met some other people that were into it, and I was able to branch out and find a bunch of the real deal. I started to get engrossed that way. And I've just been kind of doing it ever since. Once we graduated, I had tried, to get myself in there. But basically, life happened, and I had to put the comics thing to the side for the moment. And it wasn't until about 5 or 6 years later that I was able to recommit. And I started working at this small studio doing it's a little magazine called PS Magazine for the military, of all people.
Okay.
Where we did a lot of technical drawing, and then I did that for about 4 or 5 years. And it's tanks, Humvees, M16s, all the kind of stuff military would work with.
So you're ready to draw some military comics.
No, I hate it. It was every day. It was the same stuff.
Yeah.
It was a valuable experience artistically, but I'm done with that. And then, I started sending out samples when I felt ready. Eventually transitioned out of that into more regular freelance stuff. Brennan picked me up for Tyrant Fall in 2019, 2020, somewhere around there.
Yeah, somewhere around there. I think it might have been 2020 because I remember during one of our discussions, you mentioned you're like, oh, because I think you mentioned like no one's hiring right now because it was the pandemic. It was like, who has like money right now? And I was like, well, I have this contest I want to get in, so like let's make it happen or something.
Yeah, and I guess as they say, the rest is history. We got started with that short story, and eventually that turned into issue 1, and we've been collaborating every year since then.
Yeah, because it was like what 6-8 page short originally. 8.
Yep.
Yeah, with that contest. So I'm glad you kept it going. That was a nice ending point too with those first 8 pages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that worked out really well. Credit to Brennan for the writing on that, for like just so gracefully transitioning from like what could have been a totally natural just endpoint into a full story.
Yeah. So what is Tyrant Fall? What is the as you, I know you guys were just on, or at least Brennan was on Matt and Noah's podcast, and as Matt likes to say, what is the elevator pitch?
Well, I've always pitched it as, what if Dragon Ball Z was published in Heavy Metal magazine? It's a kung fu fantasy story about a young woman who's forced to choose between avenging her murdered family and saving the world from the superhuman tyrants that rule it. It's when we started that short, really the whole premise was, well, mostly it was, I want to work with Max. Max has drawn some really cool like pinup style arts that are very like heavy metal-esque. I want to do something with that, but I also want to flex like some fantasy muscles too, and I want to try to do a lot of world building while do a lot of world building that I barely touch on, so when you're reading the short, you get the sense that there's so much more behind it all, that goes unexplained, that doesn't need to be explained in the short. So yeah, it was kind of like the short was kind of an exercise in that, plus wanting to work with Max and wanting to do a fantasy story. And then, the rest of Tyrant Fall kind of was, me sitting there being like, okay, what do I do with the rest? What do I do next? Like with the story, like what happens next? Where does it go? What's the direction? And that's when I kind of came up with the, Dragon Ball Z published in heavy metal angle. So that's where it went from there.
And it's fun. That I would say also a little tragic, all throughout.
Yeah.
But I think that really establishes your villains as being as bad as they are and as powerful as they are in the story.
Absolutely.
One thing I also have to say, and I gotta throw this up on the screen to talk about this, but Max, your art on this, I was like, is this still Max? Because this is like it feels so different, but it's so good, both
styles
there.
Thank you.
Just yeah.
Yeah,
that was one of the things I as I flipped through, I was like, we get a different artist in here for the lore and history thing.
We wanted a very flashback kind of feel, or I guess I wanted a very flashback feel for that particular sequence. So I ran it by Brennan real quick, hey, because this particular sequence is pencils only. So I reached out to Brennan as I was doing it. I was like, hey, how do you feel about trying this approach? And he was all for it. So I sent some very specific color notes to our colorist Roman, who we got back for number 2, and he's absolutely killing it. So that's really exciting. And I was like, yeah, let's do like some very like specific like greens, yellows, and pinks for this kind of like flashback sequence. And like he sent it back, no notes, nailed it, perfect every time. I mean, Roman doesn't really ever need a whole lot of notes.
Yeah.
But this particular time, it was just like, yes, awesome,
Perfect, nailed it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I will say
it
the
like
one time.
I was just saying it has
The
like
one time we did have to.
go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
Brennan.
I'm gonna stop.
There's
I'll
a
have my
delay,
point in
I
a
think.
second.
There's
Yeah.
a delay. Go ahead.
All right. So I say the one time that we did have to give Roman a note, it wasn't even like he had done something. It was like, oh, could you just change the color? Like the color you used it great. It was like he does great coloring work. It was like, can we just get it in this now? And it was like, oh, sure, easy peasy. And he changed it so easily. It was very impressive.
Yeah. I was just saying this like feels like a tapestry. Like you're living in the world looking at like an old tapestry of what happened, and maybe it's hanging at the like castle or palace or whatever. And so it was a very immersive piece of the story that just kind of brought me in on reading even more.
Nice. Yeah, that's definitely the kind of feel we were going for. I'm glad it worked out.
And then you've got like fire breathing going on and magic, and it's like the crazy sides of fantasy and the like the lore building and world building, like you mentioned, Brennan, that just builds up the story. So what made you approach not just like like you said, Dragon Ball Z meets heavy metal, but what made you go for dragons that aren't like the typical dragon that you'd think of? So if I remember correctly, that's what like our tyrants are called.
Yeah, you're correct. So I think one of the things when I was developing this idea was, one, I was like, one, magic is outlawed. I was like, I want these superhumans to be just ruling the world. Like, magic is outlawed except for like the select few that can control it. And I called them dragons because, one, the absence of the magical creatures, and two, because it was part like a D&D inspiration. How you have various dragons, and the patriarchs or matriarchs of these different colors of dragons are like the all powerful ones. They are the leaders of their color, their flight, if you will. Also kind of let in, I got to dragon because I think I remembered that a group of dragons is called like a tyranny of dragons, and I was like, oh, so I was like, yeah, that's so good. So that all those different connections came together. I was like, the bad guys, the big powerful bad guys, are called dragons, as
and a group of them is a tyranny. That's too perfect.
I mean, maybe
Awesome.
maybe that's a mistake. But I remember sitting there and being like, it's like vaguely remember being like, I think it's like a group of unicorns is called like a miracle or something. And then I was like, and then a group of dragons is naturally a tyranny. So I was like, okay, and that's kind of where eventually Tyrant Fall came from. I was like, oh, it just makes sense.
That works. I think we talked about a little bit of the Dungeons and Dragons inspirations last time a little bit. So anybody out there that watched Dungeons and Dragons at the theater recently and wants to get some new reading material that's not strictly Dungeons and Dragons, but inspired.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Perfect for
check
them.
this out. I mean, have either of you seen the movie yet? Because it's phenomenal.
I'm going tomorrow.
Oh, lucky you.
It's so good.
I gotta say, I mean, like the D&D movie history is not like the best, and it looked a little like all the previews and stuff I've seen made it look a little bit silly for my taste. But then it came out, and everybody that I know on like social media and stuff, whose opinions I respect, is like, it's awesome, and I'm like, okay, I'll watch it.
Like, there are going to be moments where you're like, all right, I know this joke is coming because I saw this in the preview, but there's a lot of other, like, it toes the line of action and humor very well, I think.
Cool.
Which I like from fantasy stuff, you know, getting a little bit of that in. I think you guys go for a little bit darker fantasy here.
Yeah.
You know, it has its moments. I feel like some of the characters in the first one had, you know, some humorous traits to them, but were still also very serious and their fighting. But
if I may, the way Brennan weaves the humor into the action, and I'm not going to get specific because I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a couple sequences in issue 1, and even in issue 2. There's like Brennan, you probably know the one I'm thinking of towards the end, where there's like the dialogue like cuts in, and it's like it's such a like an action-packed encounter, and then there's just like this little 4-panel sequence that's just it's just right tonally, and I love the way you do that. So
wait, is that at the end of issue 1 or towards the end of issue 1?
Yeah. It's close to the end there. Like I said, I don't want to get too specific because I don't want to spoil anything for anybody.
Yeah, because then something else happens right after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. It's great, but it's also good to mix that, like, that action, humor, and then tragedy, without being specific at what happens there. But I coming back to the Dungeons and Dragons movie for a moment, like that, I feel like they had a good mix of that in there, and enough references to things to, like, anybody who's played Dungeons and Dragons is gonna appreciate and enjoy.
Nice.
So you're gonna love it.
Is there any dice rolling?
No.
Okay.
But I feel like there are moments where you can kind of see how the dice went, like, in your head.
Oh, okay. Some critical failures in there.
Yeah, or like, okay, they just rolled a nat 20 on that one.
Okay.
Yeah, like, so your brain is doing the dice rolling for them, I feel like.
Right on. I've been very much looking forward to Baldur's Gate 3, and I particularly love how you can, like, literally roll the dice in that game.
Yeah, the RPG games that, like, really incorporate that in are fantastic. I just never have time to play video games anymore.
Oh, no.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. I did want to show a couple of the pages from that first
please.
the preview, the 8-page bit there, that's all on the Kickstarter page for anyone who's watching and wants to kind of get a good feel of how the story starts out. I'll just scroll through it, but it sets things up very nicely for a revenge story going forward. I feel like is what this does.
Yeah, and I think we benefit a lot again from Brennan's writing expertise here, because like, Brennan, the way, like, you set us up and just like immediately we're just into the action. It's not like what's the phrase, media res. It's not like we're not like dropped cold into it, but
right,
which is, like, to your credit, like, it's like we get just the bare minimum of, like, establishment, and then we're just like off,
and then boom, whoosh.
Yeah.
I still love that panel.
Oh yeah, that actually, I for that sound effect, I read through a lot of, like, Dragon Ball Z and paid attention to the sound effects they used, and I was like, I was like taking notes, even like when she fires that fireball, that is like a little like, I think it was like a panel with Vegeta just shooting a quick little burst. I was like, okay, make a note. That's what that sound effect was like. So I did a lot of research for these sound effects.
I need an audio clip of "foo," and then followed by "boom."
Boom, swoosh. Yeah, sound effects always, like, if you read them out loud, you're like, I've never heard anything like kind of make that sound, but I get it. Like, I kind of get what they're going for.
Yeah,
it's like its own art.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there like besides the Dragon Ball Z stuff? Is there anywhere else you go? Do you like listen to things to try to come up with what sound is happening?
It's funny you mentioned that because in the new book in Tyrant Fall 2, Max was like, "Hey, I'm thinking about drawing in a sound effect here that I hadn't written in the script." He's like, "What sound? Like, do you think it should be this sound and this or this sound?" And so I did my best to like physically replicate the sound, and then like listen to it and be like, "Hey, what sounds am I hearing?" And then I got back and I was like, I explained my process. It's like I did this to get this sound effect, so I think we should go with this.
I like that. Getting creative in the creative process.
You have to.
Yeah. So what, without spoiling what we got coming ahead in issue 2, I'm not going to throw that up on the screen for anybody who has not looked.
I think the first page you can show. There's no real spoilers there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's just awesome, Max using that military drawing skills to use.
Yeah, instead of tanks and things, you got some sci-fi tanks.
Airships and whatnot, yeah.
Air tanks.
I was definitely in my head like breaking out those old methods to get this stuff in here, and we don't get a whole ton of like the machinery of the world in issue 1, and we definitely revisit. We definitely visit for the first time some of that stuff in issue 2. So it was, although I'm definitely sick and tired of real military things. Please don't anybody make me draw any of that stuff.
Don't hire you for G.I. Joe.
No. Well, no, hire me for G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Anything I just said.
If it's G.I. Joe, yes. If it's anything else.
But I was totally looking forward actually to like sinking my teeth into some of these designs and stuff. I know we got some very good responses to that motorcycle in issue 1. So I was very much looking forward to like building out some of the other tech and vehicles in issue 2.
Yeah, because I mean you've got like sci-fi future bits coming into the story. It's fantasy, but a lot of fantasy has that sci-fi mixed into it, which is just fun.
I've been using the word science fantasy.
Okay.
Like in my head.
Yeah, that's fair because it's not sci-fi is usually based on reality, and then the sci-fi fantasy. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll go for it.
Definitely, the mix of sci-fi and fantasy is definitely like something I wanted to is the heavy metal inspiration, because I'd been reading a bunch of old back issues of heavy metal that I had. And you get that so much where it's like, oh, you're in this fantasy world, but it's like, oh, but there's like this weird future car right there.
Yeah.
And when I was talking to Max about it originally, one of the things I mentioned was like the technology in this world is like very, very strange. Like you don't like, there's not like one level of technological advancement. And like I drew from like Naruto has like a lot of that, where it's like this very like almost like very like unadvanced kind of setting, but then it's like, but they have power lines, they have like radios, they have all these different like selective technologies.
Yeah.
But then mixed in, it's like, oh, like we have all these things, but I'm still like the only way to get a message to someone is a letter, like there's no other way. Like, no electronically, what are you talking about?
But so I mean, that sounds like maybe rules set forth by the dragons, by the tyrants in charge.
So actually, it is kind of like part of the lore is that these dragons had been warring for so long that the only technologies that advanced basically were war technologies. That's why we have these flying airships. Communication like equipment and stuff that advanced as well, but only as a byproduct of like the military complex moving it forward.
That sounds about right.
Mm-hmm.
It's what happens when the tyrants take over and say everything's focused on war. Go for it. I've read through too many, or also not enough fantasy stories, and I mean that kind of idea comes up a lot with just what advances the world, and that's part of your world building going on here is that we have that as part of what you've thought about in the process, and explains so much about the world. All they know is war.
Yeah.
And I mean, we start in like that little village, right? And it doesn't look like they have really any technology.
Yeah. Like, I mean, they have like a TV, and that's like another thing.
Yeah.
It's like this place looks like rundown. There's like nothing in it, but like you go in, it's like they have a TV, they have some stuff, but it is very much that like this is probably just this is just a byproduct of the military industrial complex of this world, just pushing things along.
You need a TV for propaganda.
It's true.
Proper propaganda needs proper TV. I don't know. I was trying to throw some more P words in there. Little alliteration. But yeah, so in issue 2, what, without spoiling anything, can we expect story element wise of what direction the story might go?
Well, for Mirda, the main character, it's the consequences from issue 1, reflecting on her, the thing that's been driving her, like her whole life since the events that were in the sample, like those kind of like trying to reckon with that. I can't say too much because that'll give away stuff that of course happens. But it's basically reckoning with your internal motivators. And then for the Red Dragon, it's the consequences of the first issue, and kind of the world that she's a part of, coming in and pointing at it and being like, hey, this stuff happens, so you have to, like, there are consequences for these things. Again, can't get too specific, but again, it's all about each of these characters kind of facing the consequences advertently and inadvertently.
Consequences for all their actions.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, to be fair, they were warned.
It's true.
It sets it up, and it's like, our master doesn't want us doing this.
But we're gonna
do it anyways. We know better. I mean, there's some cool reviews on here. That second one, it's a great review.
Who's that?
I felt bad because as soon as we made it, I was like, I made a note. I was like, it's not a podcast. I do not know why I said it was a podcast. But
it's okay.
But I was like, I hope he doesn't take too much offense. But yeah, it's a good list.
Yeah, I mean, I'm honored to be included amongst all these great creators who I've had most of them on this channel too. Jared and Fell and Joe have been on the channel.
Good people.
Great people. And if these people are saying great things about the book, you know it's good. Especially I mean, if that second person says good things, I don't know.
The only numerical score we've gotten, a 9 out of 10, I'll take it.
I've been trying to be better at like actually giving numerical scores, because for a while I didn't, and then some people are saying that helps with certain metrics and things that they can kind of use. maybe not so on Kickstarter, but on I guess like releases and things coming out, it helps. But I mean, I also, if this ever goes direct market, then we've already got a 9 out of 10 before it hits the direct market.
Yeah. Hey, fingers crossed. Yeah.
Yeah.
If there's any direct market people listening, editors and whatnot, our phone lines are empty. They're open.
Open and empty.
Yeah,
Please-
open and
please-
empty. No one is calling us.
Please send calls.
Yeah, we're very lonely.
Let's just take a moment so people watching know what they get for backing here. I got your reward list. I see all versions, either digital, physical, or signed physical.
Mm-hmm.
And then this time you guys have a variant on here.
Yes.
Woo!
Yeah. Max connected me with it's Anand, right?
I have not spoken to him on the phone yet. I remember seeing through Facebook that, if I'm getting it right, the pronunciation key was Anand.
Anand.
So Anand, if we are both wrong, I deeply apologize.
Yes, me
Your
too.
art is absolutely fantastic,
Yeah.
and you are a dream to work with, and we love you. So I apologize if we don't know how to pronounce your name
very well. Well, I guess it doesn't zoom any better. I keep zooming the whole page, but the image stays the same size. Oh well. I was trying to make it a little bit bigger so everyone can see, but it's beautiful. So what made you decide to go to adding a variant on this issue versus issue 1? It was just straight up, we got cover A.
Yeah. Well, it very much was just a financial thing. Just being like, well, one part financial for issue 1. It was, this is my first Kickstarter.
Yeah. You wanted to focus on the story.
I wanted to focus. Again, it was, I don't want to, start like thinking about like variants, because I want to focus on the comic itself.
Mm-hmm.
Again, first one focus on it. It was another thing where it was like, even if this Kickstarter doesn't go, I'm more than likely we're going to finish this. So I want to keep like the costs down. This time around, the costs are still the same, but I was like, we have to add something different, and I want to get other people's takes on our world.
Mm-hmm.
And also we hadn't really featured. Myrda's on the first cover, the cover for issue 1, but it's her from behind.
Right.
And then the second one, the cover for issue 2 is a bunch of new characters we're introducing, and so kind of in a roundabout way, this is like our first time our main character is like kind of front and center on the cover, and in a very spectacular fashion at that. I'm very happy with the way this cover turned out.
Yeah,
that's great.
And totally knocked it out of the park. He's been sending us images of it at various steps along the way, and it's so good. It's so good. Very, very excited to finally get that thing going. And it's, like Brennan was saying, it's awesome to finally give Myrta her due. I'm like, honestly, a little bit bummed that I wasn't the one to do it, but there will be other chances. And like, I've drawn her for 30 pages, so maybe it's time for me to share.
Yeah, just a little. We'll try issue 3. We'll try to get you. I'll try to get you on there. I know the guy in charge, so.
Oh yeah, he's all right.
Yeah.
You've got some good drawings. In there.
There you go.
Yeah, Max kills it every issue, both issues so far. I mean, even just his like roughs that he sends me are like, I'm
that's rough.
So impressed by. I'm just like, oh my god, this looks great. Like, it's that crazy thing of, I've written everything down. I've had this picture in my head. I've done my best to describe it in the script, and then Max like makes it real, pulls it out of the ether, and you're like, oh my god, it's the thing that I was seeing in my head, and it's actually here now.
It's alive.
Yeah, exactly.
Just jumped into spoilers there.
I think we definitely benefit from a little bit of just like fortuitous shared mind. A lot of our influences come from the same place. Actually, Brennan, do you want to talk about the story for this cover?
Oh, for
issue 2.
So I don't know what the story that you want to tell is. Like, I mean, this
it's not a long story.
Yeah,
we had the same idea basically.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, no, I was like, I had actually like I'll do rough doodles, and I had this idea of, because I wanted to feature them, because again, Dragon Ball Z influence. They're kind of like a Ginyu Force-esque inspired team. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I want a good image introducing them all, showing them off, kind of, it like kind of showing them as the tough characters they are, with a little bit of their personality. And so I sketched out this thing, and then I was telling Max about it, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, I had the exact same idea." And I was like, "Well, perfect, it's great." And I was like, I think the only difference was, I think the tearing of the propaganda poster was the only thing like I had different. But Max had an idea with their poster as well, but his idea was more like Days of Future Past, like the poster on the brick wall behind them or something.
Yeah.
So we're both, we're very much in like this very similar mind space, which it works out very well for us.
Yeah. I mean, that must make the process of creating the story a lot easier when you guys can go back and forth, and you're like, oh yeah, no, I'm right with you. I know where you're going with this. I like, for you, Max, is a lot of the time when you're going through the script, you're just like, I know exactly what Brennan wants here, and I don't. You sketch it out maybe and send it back to Brennan. Brennan's like, you read my mind.
Or there's a lot of that. At the first blush is, oh, I think I know what he wants here, and I'll do the thumbnails, like I'll literally print out the script, draw what I think is going on a page, literally on the script, and then I'll print it out. I'll print out like some templates that I make for myself. That's basically just a comic page, but reduced down. And then I do what is basically tight roughs, and that's the layouts that I send back for approval. And I mean, we don't really do a whole ton of adjusting. There's that one sequence that I just sent over to you, the final art for, that we went back and forth a bit, but that was like, with like the shadows and stuff.
Yeah. That was again, it's one of those things, like, we keep this, which is good. It is very open communication between us. So Max has never been like read a panel and been like just slave to the description. If he has an idea, he'll come back to me and be like, "Hey, what about this?" Like, and in issue 1, he added a panel, which I'm like, actually, like, looking back, it's like, well, that's actually that was a great addition,
it's more,
to help with pacing. And here it was like, well, I have this idea for, you described the panel this way. This is how I did it. And then I would come back and be like, well, what if we did it like this? And then, there's a lot of open, honest communication, and the book is better for it.
Yeah.
I do want to point out for people watching, if you've gotten issue number 1 already, it's just $5 for the digital, or $5 for the physical.
Yeah, both.
That's amazingly low prices for a Kickstarter comic. So what is it? Both catch up is 20?
Yeah.
And then different levels in between up to there. But a lot of Kickstarters, it's like 15 for one issue, so 20 for both is.
And even if you go for like the higher ones where you're only getting issue 2, you can get issue 1 as an add-on during the pledging thing. So that way I wanted to make it easy, especially for international readers and stuff. Like there's the clear like, oh, you wanted, the digital issue 1 and stuff. Boom, here it is here.
Yeah.
But for other people that are going for more physical material stuff that is available for them as well.
Yeah. And I think it's not gone, but you can get yourself into the comic.
I think there is one more slot. 1
of 4 left.
Yeah.
Get yourself drawn in. Come on, who wants it?
Meet your demise in our comic. You can promise no surviving.
Yeah. I believe it says your face will be featured where you will meet an untimely but swift demise.
Yeah.
Who wants to die?
Come,
and based on
you.
Yeah.
Max is like, I want to kill you.
Yeah.
Based on the first issue, I can say deaths are going to be pretty swift.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the red dragon is very effective.
Super effective attacks.
All the dragon characters are very effective at what they do. And then we haven't even gotten to. I've started writing issue 3, and there's even more brutality in that. So it just gets crazy from here.
With this series, how far are you wanting to go? Are you wanting to keep it going for a while, or do you have kind of a set? Like, I feel like this is a 5-6 issues, and I'll wrap the story.
So like this first arc is 5 issues long. If it was it's again kind of like in the vein of the short. There is more, but after issue 5 is a nice just end point. If that was all there was ever published, I'd be happy. The story a story would be told, but I have a much longer form story. So it could go for a couple years. I think that the total I have like plotted out. And of course, this is just me like doing rough like 3-paragraph descriptions of each issue. Is like 30 something issues worth of material. And
so you are trying to really pull into the Dragon Ball Z bit and just go on forever. And
that would be nice, but luckily, like I do, if like it does, like again, that has a definitive end, but with like there would be like some opportunities to explore more. Like I'm not thinking like it would go on for hundreds of issues. Maybe like if in the dream scenario that we were able to do all 30 something issues, like after that it might be like a one shot here and there, an oversized one shot, just
exploring
going
different
into
things in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
The things that you're like, I want to have time to go check, like talk about this or this character, but it's not part of the main plot.
Oh yeah.
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 I mean, there's some characters I would love to see more of from that first issue that we will not be seeing more of.
Oh, you and Max. Max was like, was pretty bummed.
Interesting.
Actually, several people were very bummed. But they're like, "Wait, what? This character?" And I was like, "Yeah, sorry."
No one just backed.
And then even like, hey, look at that! Yay, that's great. So that's a great. That's
just
great to see. Broke 3,000.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
awesome.
Shout out to whoever that was. If you're watching, if you're
thank
not
you so
watching,
much.
then you should be watching, and you will never hear me say this.
Yeah, no, greatly appreciate all of our backers. I was actually very happy to see among family and friends that backed so far, some people that I know noticed their names from the previous issue. So I was like, hey, awesome. They liked it enough to come back for seconds.
Yeah. I mean, it, like I said before, fantastic first issue. and so you gotta see more of this world, and knowing that you've got the rest of that world built up in your head
Mm-hmm.
and somewhat laid out on paper, or in the computer, I guess.
Yeah.
That
Both.
that I feel like that keeps people engaged in the story, knowing that there's more of a world to explore,
Mm-hmm.
especially fantasy worlds that can really just be huge, and you could just be like, I want to go talk about this part of this world, and here's an arc focused on these people, and then that comes and connects back over here. Like, I don't know. I love expansive worlds that are built well.
And there's a lot more of that, I think, in issue 2. It's fair to say. Issue 1 was very much locked into like setting the stakes and like understanding exactly what we're doing here and who we're dealing with. In issue 2, it feels like, Brennan, correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like we had a little more breathing room, so we can show a little bit more of like this place that they all exist in,
Mm-hmm.
and like where everybody comes from and like who they are.
Yeah.
We definitely lean in a little bit more to that world building element here.
You got the hook in on the first issue. Now you got time to reel everybody in,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
Exactly.
we're gonna marinate you now.
Yeah. Now it's just to enjoy this world that you're in. You're like, we're giving you the golden ticket. Now you're in Wonka's factory, and you get to see just all the wondrous things that are in there.
Just
Are we adding Oompa Loompas, Brennan?
Yeah, that's before.
Can I kill Oompa Loompas?
it's a stretch goal that Oompa
Yeah.
Loompas get drawn into the
Yeah,
world,
yeah.
and then Max gets to kill them.
Yeah. No, it's unfortunately, Max. All I can promise you is that I'm going to describe more cool characters, and then, like, 20 pages in, kill them, and you'll be like, "What? No, I just drew this really cool character," and I'm like, "Sorry." Like,
so are you aiming to beat George R.R. Martin's kill count?
Oh, I mean, maybe just implied, but like on panel, probably not.
Like, we're gonna have a red wedding. Like, what's what should we really prepare ourselves for the gore?
Don't need to
Yes.
prepare. No. Otherwise, you will ruin the surprise when it happens.
How surprised are you usually, Max, when you're like going through stuff and then just like, oh, that character's dead? Or you like come to expect it now from Brennan? Just
it was a bit of a shock going through issue 1, but I feel like I understand the kind of torture that Brennan likes to put me through now. So I'm although issue 2 we do some pretty egregious stuff to a matter that we thought was closed in issue 1, which I was I was texting Brennan as I was doing the layouts. I was like, I hope you know you're hurting my soul right now.
Is it the spoiler page that's in there?
Not in the first 4 pages, right, Max?
Okay.
I don't think so.
Because I did see there's something also that's kind of like bringing back something from the last issue that I'm like,
yeah. Well, so besides
painful
just
to
like
see that again.
Besides putting these characters through the ringer, there's also just I have several panels where when I'm writing out the description or I'm like conceiving it in my head, I'm like, God, I hope Max doesn't hate me after this one because like it's a little demanding, like what I'm asking for.
I guess how much are you really like? I know a lot of writers will put their characters through everything to like really build the character up. So do you have like an end goal with our main character here to like see her become a better person or reach her goals with all of this trauma that you're inflicting?
Yeah, there's like even like just in the first 5 issues, like there's a character arc that she's going to go through, which it was always the intention that by the end of this, even when I was flirting with like the 30 issue idea, I was like by the end of issue 5, she'll have, gone from this person with these ideals to a slightly changed person with a new perspective on those ideas that she had before. And, that's going to help her move forward. I'll say, just, from there, I think after that, there is a much larger character. There is a much larger character arc. I even have like the final kind of image in my head, and I've actually kind of teased it a little bit in issue 1. It's very subtly, like you wouldn't even know, but hello. Yeah, so like I have this image, so like the arc from even from issue 1, it will end at issue 5, but then it can even stretch further to issue 30 something. So there's a direction there.
Okay. Not just putting our characters through trauma for no reason.
Yeah, for no reason. There's a reason.
Nah, I knew there was, but it's one of those things that I feel like is used as a good, especially in fantasy. Characters our heroes go through such a journey to get to where they need to be. They get put through so much, and in one issue, she's already been through quite a lot.
Yeah.
And so I'm only imagining what's going to happen over these next couple issues with her journey and where that's going to take her.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be adventure for her, for the Red Dragon, and for the new character that I got introduced at the end of issue 1. Yeah, it's going to become basically their story, and if in the long run, and even in issue 2, you'll see that the story kind of splits off to focus on two different points of view.
Okay.
But yeah, it's gonna be fun.
I'm excited to get this one out there and see it. 24 days left and 1,000 short of the halfway point. So pretty good progress.
Yeah. No, it's been good. I'm very grateful for everyone who came out within, I said at the time the first day, but in actuality it was the first 12 hours, and I was like, holy cow, that's even more mind blowing than 12 hours. These people came out for me, for us, I should say.
That first 24, 48 hours is super important in terms of like actually getting progress on the campaign, because that's when it says like, hey, we're here. And then the last 48 hours I know is like the other big, like, hey, reminder, you saved this, go back it. Don't forget, dummy. Because I've definitely gotten that reminder, and I'm like, oh yeah, gotta go hit that button. Because I hit the save on a lot of things, and then there's, like we were talking about before, there's so many things that just launched on Kickstarter right now. But I think this gets that fantasy niche. So if that's what you're looking for from a comic book, this is where you want to go. Last night I was talking to someone who's got horror, like humor horror going on, slasher type book. So completely different genre. And then I know there's several other genre of books that are out there on there right now that are launching and ending at about the same time. So something for everybody out there. Or if you're like me and you just love reading everything, then you just pick them all up. You know how it goes.
There's just a lot of good stuff out there.
Right. And just really enjoyable comics. And I think Kickstarter is a great platform that we've seen access to more and more stories and expansion of what can be out there.
Yeah, I think it's a really, really vital tool for at least the Western comics space right now, because there's a lot of good books out there that, like the bigger companies, just can't put out for one reason or another, and there's a lot of really talented creators that would probably be left swinging in the wind if if they didn't have it as a resource. So yeah, it's awesome. Oh, and maybe we're working towards this, but I would remind everybody we've got early bird
Yes.
tiers on the Kickstarter right now for
Let's
a
bring
few
that
more days.
back
Yeah,
up here.
until noon on Saturday they last, and they're most of the upper tiers, the more pricier tiers, all of them $5 off. This would be the best time to take advantage of them. Get a lot of good stuff for just a little bit less than you would be paying if you backed later. One of the things we mentioned the variant cover, but another thing we're going to be doing are the stickers, which the sigil stickers, which I'm really stoked about. We had the designs for like 2 of them already established in the story. A new character they had introduced in that's getting introduced in issue 2. We have Max, designed his sigil, and I was like, holy cow! Like I was like amazed. It was so impressive and it just looked so good. And I was like, yes, this rocks. So I can't wait to get those. I love stickers. Like I've decorated my laptop with them. So I'm like, this just it looks so cool. I can't wait to put them on my stuff now.
I left MegaCon with so many stickers. I've got so many stickers sitting around. I gotta start putting them on things because otherwise they're just gonna sit there. I need them on things. I need to take one of my short boxes and just cover it.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
I've got them on store folios right now. I'll grab one of my store folios and go to the comic shop with it, and it's got all these stickers on it.
That's a good one too.
But yeah, a short box might be next. But yeah, these early bird specials, if you're looking to back at a higher level, take advantage. Start an insurrection. Why not?
Yeah. You basically get the at $5 off. You basically get the comic itself for free. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. You get the print and what was the print, the stickers, the variant, the regular, the digital, all of that. It would help if I just scrolled down to the include. Yeah. That'd be too easy. But yeah, go check these out. The link is in the description. The link's in the chat if you're watching live right now. Lots of cool things. Or if you just want the 2 books, go back at that tier down here.
Yeah.
Get two physical, 1 and 2, and then the digitals for 1 and 2.
Easy peasy. And they're both the digitals are all what I've called the digital deluxe. So it's not just the story. You get some bonus material, some world building stuff, process pages. It's a lot of fun. It's stuff that I wouldn't really touch on in the story because it's not necessary for the story necessarily, but it is stuff that is there that is kind of tangentially related to what has happened in the comic, and just helps flesh out the world a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Those types of things are always fun to see, to kind of see more into the creative process and what's going on in the world, and the fact that you don't have to pay any extra for. I see some campaigns they do digital and then they do digital deluxe. So you've got just all of it in one. No need to pay extra for the little bits. But before we wrap up, is there anything else you guys have that you're working on right now? Any other projects?
I've got one other bun in the oven that will not see publication for a while. Okay. So keep an eye out for that. If you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen some bits and pieces from that. It's a book about a cyberpunk dystopia. And
Okay.
then I have a as of yet unannounced thing also coming up that I believe is going to be another Kickstarter effort. Once we wrap issue 2, I'm moving on to that, and that I'm not sure if that's going to see a launch this year. So stay tuned. You got some more Davenport visual things.
As the world needs.
Yeah. And it's Max Davenport Yo on Instagram and Twitter, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Brennan, anything else cooking around in your brain? Or just focusing on this right now?
So yeah, well, this is the primary focus. I've been trying. One of my resolutions for this new year was to basically just be writing a lot more, like even more so than ever. With a pretty high like weekly goal word count, which I don't really meet often, but that's the point, is to aim high. And even if I don't, if I fall short, it's still like a lot of stuff has been made. But yeah, so I'm working on Tyrant Fall 3. Again, I have a couple irons in the fire, but like the main things I'm working on: Tyrant Fall 3, little short comic that I'm hoping to just keep to 28 pages. Just working on the script for that. Don't have like an artist or anything lined up. Just had this story idea that want to get it done. Another prose short story that I want to work on, themed around. It's another fantasy story. It's to not get into it like the way I've been thinking of it. It's kind of inspired by Pokemon. No monster capturing. It's just about a guy going around and basically completing a biology book, a zoology book essentially. Crypto creatures, not crypto creatures, mythological creatures and whatnot. So that short story, the comic book short, which is kind of like a Soviet bloc era, like Cold War era inspired story. Not really like a real world setting, but like close enough that you're like, oh yeah, I can see the parallels.
Okay.
I have this project that I've been working on kind of since last Heroes Con, and I finished the first script for it. Another comic project with the artist. The artist I've been communicating about with it was she goes by 24x4. She does some like cool. She's done some cool stuff. One of the things that drew me to her booth was some JoJo art that she had done. Then what solidified it is the Batgirl prophecy came true yet again. She did a Batgirl piece, and I was like, well, that just sold it. That's the thing that, like, one of the things that sold me on Max was he did a Batgirl piece where I was like, that's a really good looking Batgirl. Barbara Gordon Batgirl. Let me talk to him about.
It's the only Batgirl I've ever drawn.
Yeah, the only Batgirl. He drew it, and I was like, "That's a really good looking Batgirl." And I kind of like,
if someone wants to work with you, they need to draw Batgirl.
You know what? It's no joke. Like, there's so many people that I've worked with where they've drawn a Batgirl, and maybe I saw it after I started working with them, but it's like it always comes true. Like, they always draw this really good looking Barbara Gordon Batgirl, and I'm like, wow, that person's really good. I want to work with them. And then Annan actually just posted like a Batgirl piece the other day, and I was like, I can't believe this keeps happening again.
Everybody just loves drawing Batgirl.
Yeah, hey, Barbara Gordon Batgirl.
Great character.
I love her. She's not my favorite character. I like her a lot though. So I'm like, why does it just keep happening? But
hey,
but yeah. So 24x4. She did some cool stuff at Heroes Con, and I talked to her, and so I came up with this piece, and basically I pitched it to her. We're kind of loosely working on it, but so yeah, so a couple comic stuff, couple pro stuff. Oh, I was working also another the last iron in the fire, because I have to cut myself off at some point, is a kind of a Christmas horror, a Christmas grim dark fantasy story novel that I'm writing. I started writing it and I wrote like 30,000 words of it, and I was like, I have to reassess my approach because the pace was a bit unsustainable. Like I was getting to story beats too fast, and I was like, no, this is supposed to last like a predetermined amount of time in the world, and I'm
Yeah.
like already like I'm like halfway through those events, but like yeah, so I had to reapproach it. So yeah, that's the last one, is a Christmas grim dark fantasy.
Awesome. And where can people follow you to see what you've got going on?
I'm Vanita's Knight on Twitter. Vanita spelled Vanitas, and then Knight spelled like my last name, just all like one group together, one word. And then I believe I'm C Brennan Knight on Instagram.
Yes.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
We use Instagram so much, I remember my name so well.
I've got it linked, but all of your guys'
Awesome.
Twitter,
So check out the links.
Instagram linked down here.
Perfect. Yeah. So those are the two best places to find my stuff. I'm trying to get better at posting on Instagram. But yeah, Twitter is the main spot for me right now.
Awesome. Well, we're just over an hour right now, so I think wrap up here. Thank you both for coming on. Best of luck with 24 days on Tyrant Fall #2. Hopefully you see a very successful campaign and hit that funding goal very soon.
Yeah, that would be great. Yes, and thank you for having us on.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Great time talking with you both. Thanks everyone who's been watching in the chat. It's a quieter chat tonight, but there's been a good number of people watching the whole time. So thank you all. And thanks everyone catching this later and going to check out the campaign. The link to that down below. Go back Tyrant Fall #2 and enjoy your night.
Woo.
Hey, see you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.